The NX console is apparently less than 6 months from launch. Mads Hall from Facebook asks, what are your expectations for the NX compared to previous consoles? Hey Nintendo fans and collectors, Lithium here, bringing you another entry into the Question Lithium series. This is where I answer your Nintendo-related questions. If you do have a question for me, feel free to comment below. Mads Hall, thank you so much for your question. Now, the way I'm going to answer this is actually with 5 specific things. I'm going to look at the general information of the next console, the internal components, gimmicks, controls, and compatibility. I will save launch titles and my ideas for their launch lineup for another video, so stay tuned for that as well. What you're looking at right now is the 6 previous home consoles for Nintendo. I'm discounting, or not including, I should say, the Color TV game and the Virtual Boy. So these are the 6 main ones. What we have is a background piece of information. Roughly 60 million sold for the NES, roughly 50 for the Super Nintendo, 33 for the N64. Then we had like 22, which is a downward trend the entire way. The Wii bucked that trend with like 100 million units sold, and then the Wii U right now is over 10 million units sold, maybe about 12 million. So definitely a decline overall of those. Nintendo wants to buck this trend. Keep in mind as well, they've had their handheld series going this entire time as well. The DS was incredibly successful. The 3DS, while still successful, it's losing a lot of the market to handheld phones, basically smartphones. So this next console that's coming out, what do I think? First of all, what they absolutely must do is break apart from the Wii brand. They cannot name it Wii anything. I don't expect them to. I feel like the Wii and the Wii U were paired together almost in a 1.5 generation cycle. I'm not really sure if the NX console will be part of the 9th generation or part of the current generation. It's really interesting, but I do expect this new console coming out to actually last Nintendo a lot longer this time. I'm hoping that it lasts almost double the length of the Wii U. So maybe anywhere between 6 and 8 years for Nintendo, which is a long time, but I really think they're in this for the long haul if they have a good idea in mind. So first of all, break free of the Wii branding, break free entirely, and let's have something brand new this time around. I also think they need to be very clear about what the NX is when they release the information about it. They can't focus too much on, say for example, the gamepad that the Wii U really focused on, and Nintendo focused on at launch, when they were announcing this, and a lot of people were confused. So I think they need to be very, very clear to consumers why we would want this new console. They also need to name the console intelligently, a name that resonates with fans. Maybe that's nostalgic, but also looks ahead to the future, especially if this console has some sort of a handheld / home console dynamic where it's both in one or something like that. We will see, but it needs a name that resonates. I also am thinking they did have a free online community in the past, and I'm not sure if that's the right way to go. So actually, you can comment below. What do you think Nintendo should do with online? Should it be free? Should they have an Ethernet port actually in the console for you to plug in so you have more stable internet connection? What do you think? Because I think online functionality is really important. I do think this console is going to launch actually early to mid next year. I guess the March window time frame right now is just an estimation. That's a really strange time for a release. And in terms of pricing, I think the Wii U had that really nice sweet spot of about $300. So I do expect the new console for Nintendo to be right around that price point for a base model. And I really hope there's maybe another version that comes with a bit more involved, maybe more controllers, maybe a game bundled into that, but I think the base model should be $300. I think that's the sweet spot, $300 US, roughly around there. Alright, next up, let's get to the internal components of their new console that's going to come out. Now, I do think if they're releasing a new console, it must be more powerful than the Wii U. Not only that, it must at least be on par with the PS4 and with the Xbox One. I would be very surprised if it's not a little bit more powerful than both of those, especially with the updates of both of those consoles coming out very soon. Nintendo needs to make it more powerful than the Wii U and the new consoles that are out already from PlayStation and from Xbox or Microsoft. From Sony, rather, and Microsoft. So I do think it's going to be more powerful, but I also think what's really important is more storage. The storage on these systems, this is obviously a Wii, but the storage on the Wii U, for example, was pretty pitiful. 32 gigabytes of storage is not enough. Storage today is extremely inexpensive. I don't think it'll be a problem putting in even, say, for example, 500 gigabytes or a terabyte into the console. Storage is getting cheaper and cheaper, so I do think Nintendo will actually make that investment this time around, or at least have an option for you to buy it. So maybe the general release will be $300, you can pay maybe $400 and get a lot more internal storage. A bang for your buck. I do also expect the NX console to actually come VR ready, so virtual reality is going to possibly be the future of gaming. I do not think anything with Nintendo with this release of the new console will be virtual reality, but I do think they'll have it in mind. So I think there'll be some components in there that will be VR ready for the future. So that's my internal thoughts. I do think it'll have some USB, obviously, hopefully USB, like faster ones, maybe 3.0, we will see. And obviously I do think it's going to be cartridge run. I don't think it's going to be disc-based, which means we'll get into it in the future with all this compatibility with previous games. Alright, moving on from internal to my third idea of gimmicks. I really do think the gimmick of this console will be a home console and a handheld console combined. I do think this is something that Nintendo was almost teasing at with the Wii U. When everyone saw the gamepad, everyone thought maybe, oh, I can play my games on the go. That would be incredible, and a lot of people were really excited, but of course that's not what ended up happening. So I think if they actually combine their handheld and their home consoles, that's a great idea. That also would be a great explanation for why games like Paper Mario are no longer RPG. They don't want two Mario RPG series anymore if they only have one cohesive console. It absolutely stops the gaming droughts for both consoles, because now they're just not thinking, should this game be on the 3DS or the Wii U? It's just all on the same platform the entire time. So I think that would be a very intelligent idea from Nintendo to combine both of them. A lot of people want them to move away from the console market altogether, but this is a great kind of compromise of combining them. I do think that will be one of the gimmicks and the major gimmick. The way that this would work then is you have some sort of a controller that actually has a screen, and you can put it into a dongle or some sort of a dock or something like that, and then it will upscale it on your TV. I do expect it to work quite well on the go. I think it will be in HD on the go, and obviously something stronger than HD, or at least HD, when you're at home. Other words, though, in terms of gimmicks, I do think that they need some sort of a gimmick game. So a gimmick game for me is like when you had Wii Sports come out on the Nintendo Wii console. This was like a gimmick to kind of show you what the console was all about in terms of the different types of motion control. Then after that you had Nintendo Land kind of showing off the gimmicks of the gamepad. So Nintendo usually does bundle in some sort of a game. I do think that'll be the case as well. Something that was a mass hit like Wii Sports, it could even come pre-installed on the console, so Nintendo would probably save a bit of costs, not printing or not actually using all of their different cartridges if they go that route, or discs. So I do think that's going to be a gimmick, some sort of game bundled in with it. I also think Nintendo is holding on to one more secret. We don't even know for sure if it's handheld and home console combined, but Nintendo loves keeping their secrets. A lot of people had to sign the non-disclosure agreements, the NDAs I think they're called, so no one's talking about this, but VR actual kits, development kits, are out there already, and I think Nintendo has some other secret that I have no clue. I'm looking forward to it. I'm really excited for that. So there will be some sort of gimmick involved with the console, of course, I think. Now, that doesn't mean I want Nintendo to also just go back to their past and release this thing with a normal controller. So that brings me into my fourth topic, controls on this system. I really do think Nintendo, to be successful, needs to ship this with a normal, standard controller. Something like the Classic controller or the Pro controller for the Nintendo Wii U. I do not think any of these controllers will be backwards compatible. So I do not expect the NX console to be compatible with these controllers. I don't expect them to be compatible with your Wii remotes. I think Nintendo is going to try and make a harsh cut from the Wii that I already made the argument for. So this means all your Wii remotes and Pro controllers and things like that, classic controllers, they will not work on the new console in my opinion. I think they're going to ship the console with a standard controller that looks something like this, but it will be brand new, some sort of different look of course, and it should still have the A, B, X, Y buttons that I would really like, but I think this should be the standard development controller for all games basically to have that option. And of course the gamepad actually had the same buttons on it, but it did have some inputs that were a little bit different. So I think it's going to ship with a standard controller. This will really open up to third-party developers to kind of bring them over to the console and to make them make games for it. Also, while you're on the go, though, I do think there'll have to be some sort of a controller like this that you can watch on the controller itself with the screen. And there's the rumor of the detachable controllers. That would go all the way back almost to the Famicom with the two controllers that kind of pop off the system, which is kind of neat as well. So I don't know if that's true. If it is true, we'll see how they do it. They, of course, actually had the nunchuck here, and they also had, the nunchuck and the Wii remote, and both of them, I guess, you held in your own hand. So these two, if they do detach from each side, that would be pretty neat. Nintendo did have a trademark, actually, pending for one of those that did detach the controllers. That would be pretty cool. I'm not sure what I think, but I really want them to ship the console with a standard controller as well. That means, though, the battery life must be very important. On the original Wii console, sometimes your battery only lasted like 3 to 5 hours, which wasn't very long. You could buy an updated battery, which I did, the high-capacity battery. That would last for like 8 to 10 hours. On the 3DS, sometimes you get a charge that's like 10 hours. It really depends what you're doing. It depends if you're playing in 3D, which would bring that way down in terms of time frame. But I think battery life is getting better and better. So I do expect if they have a controller that is wireless, it should last a long time, just like this one does. So we're looking at tens of hours. And if it does have a screen, I'm hoping for at least a minimum of 10 hours for it to actually maintain the charge at launch without you actually having to update it. That would be my hope with the new console and controls. Let's move on from there to compatibility. So a lot of people are wondering, will the next console be compatible with Wii games and Wii U games? I do not think this will be the case. I think they will be porting games over. A lot of really popular games, which I will talk about in another video as well. So I do think it will not be compatible with Wii games or Wii U. I'm expecting the new console, if they do go cartridges, will not even have a slot for discs to even go into it. I think it's just going to be cartridge-based, just like the 3DS has the small cartridge port right there. I do not expect them to have any sort of discs, because if they do want to take it on the go, you're not going to want to have a spinning disc actually inside of a portable console that is playing your games. It just wouldn't work out very well. So I don't even think it'll be backward compatible. I do think they'll port a lot of games over. They'll also have them available on the virtual console, which brings me to my next point. I think this console will be able to play games from all the previous generations, including the handheld games. Depending on how they do this, it might not work with 3D games, with 3DS games, or DS games. We'll see what they do, because I would love to play some of those games on home console, but we'll see if that ever works out. I do think they'll bring their entire virtual console over to the new console, and I do think they're going to have to do that at launch. Have games available for you to download at launch, and not wait like they made us wait ages on the Wii and the Wii U to get games ready for us to actually play. I also think that the compatibility of the console will work with smartphones. I think our smartphone devices are really important. I think Nintendo is going to somehow partner maybe like Super Mario Run or their upcoming games for their handheld smartphone devices, and maybe they'll somehow work with your system as well. Maybe they'll even work as controllers. Who knows? But with Bluetooth technology, a lot of things are working and being compatible. So I do think compatibility will be very important for Nintendo in the future with this NX console. The last thing that I would talk about is launch titles, but I'm going to save that for a whole nother video. Mads Hall, thank you so much for your question. I really appreciate it. Everyone, I would love for you to comment below what are your expectations for the NX console. Now to get to sales just really quickly, who knows? We don't even know what this system is. I can't say if this will be a success or a failure. If they completely break off the naming brand from the Wii, if they have something gimmicky but also nostalgic for gamers, and if they ship it with a normal controller, I think this system could be really popular, especially if you can play your games on the go and also play them at home. If they combine their home console and handheld, that would be a great idea from Nintendo, and I'm just really, really excited. So comment below what your expectations are. I would love to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to fill that like bucket. Follow me on all the social media links in the description below the video, and remember, as always, go collect them all and keep smiling while gaming. Thanks for watching, everyone.